the channel, we've unboxed all of Powertown Series 1 Ultras. Now is the hard part. Now it's time to rank the entire wave from my least favorite to my favorite, along with some final thoughts.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another set rankings video. This time, Powertown Ultras Series 1. And of course, we're going to rank them from my least favorite to my favorite. But for all your wrestling figure needs that are not Powertown, make sure you're hitting up Ringside Collectibles. Use discount code Kyle. Save yourself 10%. And when I think of Powertown, I think of...
You ever wonder if they're watching your every move? Cell phones, internet, surveillance. Think about it. Post your...
Hi, Kyle. Governor Jesse Ventura here, or in the days of wrestling, Jesse the Body Ventura. Thanks for doing this, and you want...
Yes, it's true. I think of the great Governor Jesse Ventura. Of course, you guys, longtime viewers of the channel, know we had a lot of fun with Powertown. We still have a lot of fun with Powertown here on the channel. But at the end of the day, I'm just a classics guy. You guys know that. And I am probably the biggest champion of Powertown there could be. I want this line to succeed more than any toy line out there right now. I'm saying it right now. I want this thing to have some legs. I want to see this thing go on for 100 series is what I want to see, because I love my classic wrestling figures. You guys know the Jakks Classic Superstars line. So near and dear to my heart, and this could be the line to fill in so many holes in our collections of longtime fans. We can finally get a Dory Funk Sr. figure. We can finally get a Dory Funk Jr. figure on top of so many other legends. Give me a modern day Abdullah the Butcher. I mean, I could go on and on rattling off names I want to see Powertown bring to life in action figure form. But we had a lot of fun with them, and of course, like a lot of these smaller companies, and this is just Series 1 here, so you gotta cut a little bit of slack here and there, but we had a lot of fun with the conspiracy theories, because there truly was a lot of conspiracy theories, and honestly, there is still a lot of unanswered questions at this point right now. Where is the original product? They showed a box on their Instagram saying, hey, here it is. What are their plans with that? I would love to have an on-card set, and I hope they do that, because I think they need to release those to make us all, the conspiracies all go away. They got to release those Series 1 of damaged product, or they at least got to show them or something. I don't know, but they got to prove to the world. And they're probably saying, we don't got to prove anything to anybody, and they might be right there as well. But long story short, it took a long time to get these figures. There was some delays, multiple delays, things like that. I am very, very hopeful that they don't get caught up in this delay. Year and a half wait for everything, because man, we're all getting older, and a lot of this stuff is starting to grate on collectors of wrestling figures. It's grating on me, and it's grating on a lot of people in the comment sections and a lot of our videos. We got to get to a point where we tighten up these pre-order windows. I get it. You want to, these companies want you to wait a year and stuff. They take your money for a year. It's just not a very good model right now, and if there's anything that can be done to shorten up that time frame, man, I think it'll go a long way for your consumer fan base, and I think it will equal more sales for product as well. Now, that is definitely tough, because a lot of these smaller companies, they do need the capital, so they need some of that kind of stuff going on. They need a set to fund the next set, and so forth, until hopefully they can tighten those windows, and you would think Powertown, like a lot of the other companies, once they get 2 or 3 sets under their belt, they kind of know what their consumer base is. They kind of know what the orders are going to be. Obviously, you order a little bit more than you kind of guess, and then you go from there. So you kind of know your minimum orders that you need and all that kind of stuff by then. So we'll see what ends up happening with Powertown in the future. But the other thing is, Powertown Ultras Series 2, you got to think those should be announced fairly soon. They should already have been announced, if you ask me. I think they wanted to wait till Kerry Von Erich was in everybody's hands. And once again, you got to give a shout out to Powertown for making that right, not delaying everybody's orders and then shipping it on their own dime. Kudos to Powertown. That is customer service at the end of the day. You can say whatever you want, but they didn't have to do that, and they did, and that shows what they mean to the fan base out there, what the fan base means to them and their customers, really, at the end of the day. But I really do think they should have announced Series 2 by now, because let's say Series 2 gets announced August 1st, it's a month-long pre-order window, and then you're waiting a year from there. It's just, we need to tighten up those lines a little bit. But it does look like we are getting a Matt Cardona and Brian Myers figure, kind of a set in between, and I do really think that's what a lot of these companies should be doing. Here it is, old Kyle put the business hat on. But I think a lot of these companies should do, okay, here's Series 1, Series 2, there's going to be a long wait in between. Shorten that wait time in between, give us a 2-pack, give us a tag team series, maybe 1 or 2, little one-offs, maybe an exclusive here and there. Keep the flames going just a little bit. Keep you top of mind. Things like that. I think that would be the way to go for Powertown, and they're doing that at least with Brian Myers and Matt Cardona. That being said, hey, I'm all for the Major Pod guys. I have no problems with them or any issues with them getting figures in any toy line. I will say it does feel a little bit weird for them to be in Powertown, which is supposed to be classic guys, and I have heard some rumblings like this is supposed to be a classic group of wrestlers. Why are they in there? Why are they taking some spots? But kind of makes me take that big step back once again and say it's a lot like Classic Superstars. When Classic Superstars were coming out, I remember saying, why are the Hardy Boys in the Classic Superstars? We get them enough in the Ruthless Aggression lines. I don't want any Hardy Boys. Well, let's take that big step back. Matt and Brian, 20 years from now, guess what? They're going to be classic superstars. They're going to be classic wrestlers. There's no doubt about it. They will be at that point. Then it'll feel like they fit in the line. So you kind of learn from past mistakes, I guess, is what happens when you get older. Now, I don't know if Brian and Matt really needed to be up there that soon. That's, I guess, your own verdict there. I think a lot of us would rather have a Rock and Roll Express, maybe something like that, at least right now. But we'll take what we can get at this point. And the pre-order is coming very soon for the Matt and Brian figures here in about a week if you're watching this as it drops. So if you're into those Powertown figures, you better get after them. And everything we've seen picture-wise, pictures of the belts, things like that, looks really, really nice. So no issues with those either. So an interesting dynamic, an interesting case of wrestling figure business, I guess, with Powertown Series 1. We do know Remco figures are coming. We'll stay tuned for those as well, I guess. But here today, we're going to talk about Series 1 of the Ultras. And gotta say, blew away my expectations. I don't know if my expectations were low. I don't know if I have low expectations, but I just kind of thought, okay, what are these going to be like? Now, I'm going to say it, I've got a few gripes with these figures, a few gripes with the packaging, but as a whole, very, very good. Of course, the first gripe everybody says is, why aren't they Mattel scale? Why aren't they AEW scale? Whatever it may be. Well, it's their company. They can do the scale however they want. This is Powertown scale. It's not like you say, hey, they're out of scale. No, it's Powertown's scale. That being said, you can easily make the argument, hey, you're a new company, you're wanting to grow your business, you're wanting to get more sales, make it the same size as Mattel Elites. Of course, the market leader would be the Mattel WWE Elite brand. Why wouldn't you marry up your sizes to those ones there? I think that is a little bit of a miss there, because I think a lot of people that didn't buy these would have jumped over for that if they were Mattel scale. But now they're like, I don't need these, they're too out of scale, it just doesn't fit my collection. So you did turn away a little bit of fan base there, but who knows? Maybe you're going to start your own world, all that kind of stuff. You'll grow from there. It'll be interesting. I mean, they could take that knowledge and say, okay, we got the feedback from people. We're going to shrink our figures. And it's going to be like a UFC Jazzwares thing where the size changed in between series. I kind of hope that's not the case, because then you'd almost have to remake all these guys, which would mean more money out of our wallets. And of course, the price point on these, very, very expensive. And I've heard more about price point in the last couple of weeks than ever before, and a lot of people dogging on different price points out there. And at the end of the day, price points are tough, because it's tough to make the general consumer understand. I don't care if we're talking about a bag of bread, or we're talking about milk, we're talking about eggs, whatever. There's so much stuff that goes into it. There's property fees. Of course, you got to get the estate of Bruiser Brody involved, and they have to take a percentage, whatever that may be. You got to pay your employees. You got to pay your factories. You got to pay shipping. You got to pay somebody to design the figures. There's so much that goes into everything. And oh, by the way, you're only going to make 5,000 units of each figure. Well, Mattel's making 100,000 of everything. So what do you think? You run the line for a full day making an AJ Styles figure, or you make a 2-hour window or an hour window making a Bruiser Brody? Well, then you got a line change, mold change, all that, the changeover. That's where the expense is. So without 100,000 being made, you're kind of stuck at price points. And that goes for retros, that goes for everything. These smaller companies, you think they got the power of Hasbro, Mattel, they absolutely do not. However, Powertown, a little bit farther ahead of the game than most. They got some experienced players behind the scene, helping them through this, navigating the waters. Obviously, the business has probably changed a little bit since the old Remco days, but a lot of stuff is carryover, a lot of stuff is similar, and that's like a lot of industries. But technology has changed a whole lot of things over the years. There's no doubt about that. But definitely an interesting one, and one that I think the general public needs to wrap their head around. These aren't going to be $20 elites. It's just not going to happen. And once they're ordered, pretty much they're ordered. That's the way it's going to be. Where Mattel, they might do another run of things. They might do a greatest hits. You're probably not going to have that with these in the future. So something to take note of. And of course, a lot of people crying, oh, I missed out. How did I miss out? Well, man, how did you miss out? Because they opened up the pre-order window like 3 or 4 times for these. So you're your own worst enemy if you missed out on these. Maybe you were a new collector, or maybe you spaced it off or what. And I know there's a lot of people that maybe they don't want to admit it, but they just scoffed at it, said they didn't want it, didn't pre-order, and now they're crying because, hey, I got to pay $100 for each one of these or whatever. And the other crazy thing that I didn't see coming is there is apparently a lot of belt collectors for action figures, as a lot of these belts are selling for more than the figure actually was. So man, a lot of people making a heck of a lot of money just selling the belts, keeping the figures. Man, if I wasn't such an OCD completionist, I'd almost sell some of these belts and just get some of my money back. But can't do that, and that really opens up the doors to Powertown. Hey, Powertown, it looks like there's another avenue for some money for you guys. Maybe some belt packs, maybe some single belts. You sell each one of these belts for $15 a pop, something like that. I think there might be a pretty big market, and if they have access to all these old school belts from all the old territory days, I think there's a market. Obviously, you put them with the figures, that's great, but selling them on their own, I can see a lot of people buying them. You know, maybe a couple people want the world class title. They want one, for the Von Erichs. They want one for each member of the Von Erichs or whatever. Who knows? There's a lot they could do. So that's a future business plan out there, so I think, for Powertown. So that's a little of my kind of final thoughts on Powertown as a whole. Quality-wise, I felt they were really good. Definitely bigger figures. Of course, they do got the pins in the joints. I'd love to see pinless, but it's pretty close. They're trying to mask it a little bit, but you do got pins. A lot of people are dogging on the single jointed elbows, that kind of stuff. Doesn't really change my world too much. I'm not a player. I'm not playing with them. I'm not a figure photographer, really, at the end of the day. So it doesn't bother me, but I know it does bother some people, and it's just kind of the model they're choosing here. My biggest gripe is the McFarlane-style hands with the peg. I feel like the hands should have been a little bit bigger. I think you could upsize the hands on all these guys just a hair more. And I would love it that the hands didn't pop off. A lot of times you turn the hand like this, they pop off the joint. That is a little bit annoying. So I'd love to see that fixed. Stan Hansen seems to be the worst of that one for me, but I would love to see that a little bit there. The jackets are really cool. You know, I go back and forth. I really do like soft good jackets, but when a Polly Pocket style jacket like these are done really well, they're done really well. And these are very, very nice. I will say a little bit hard to get off. Kerry Von Erich, Vern Gagne especially, a little stress in the plastic a little bit trying to get those off, as they are very, very tight, but man, they do look good. And for a collector like me, once you put these on, like Vern, he's probably never taken that thing off. Now, I did have a little bit of staining on my Vern. I don't know if that's just me, who knows, but that would be a watch out in the future. Nobody wants our figures stained, especially at a $20 price point, let alone a $50 price point. But a lot of good stuff here. As a whole, man, an amazing first run on the figures. Packaging, absolutely next level. Packaging a lot bigger than I assumed it was going to be. I think that is pretty cool. I'm not a huge fan of the flap. I'd like to see the bio card on the back, shrink down that cross cell a little bit, and just have an open window on the front. I think that would be the way to go, but it is their line. They can do what they want with that, and they'll see if there's going to be some changes in the future there. But I gotta say, beat my expectations, and like I said, I'm not sure what my expectations originally were, but they definitely did beat those expectations. So shout out to the Powertown crew. Bring on Ultras Series 2. Get me Dory Funk Sr. Get me Dory Funk Jr. It's time for a Dory Funk Jr. figure. It's been way, way too long. I would love to see some Terry Funks too. Give me every incarnation of Terry Funk that ever existed, but I think he's tied up in the Mattel Legends deal. I would also love to see some Japan Legends. A giant Baba figure would be very cool, and an Inoki figure would be very cool. Obviously, the Great Mudas, things like that, but even going back to the Ricky Dozan, stuff like that. Guys that have never had figures like this, I think it would be a really cool thing for longtime fans, historians, you name it, all day long. So now we're going to get down to it. Let's rank through these. And this is a very tough rankings, as a lot of these guys I've wanted figures of for a long, long time. Vern Gagne, of course, me growing up in AWA country, I know all about Vern Gagne. He's a household name around these parts. So you ask anybody's grandparents, oh, Vern Gagne is one of the people they list. And I guess I should say great-grandparents for most people. They're going to list Vern Gagne, and they're also going to list Lou Thesz. Lou Thesz is another all-timer. Wanted Lou Thesz for a heck of a long time. Lou Thesz has his Hall of Fame here in Iowa. I've been a part of that for over 20-some years. I'm going to miss it this year because of San Diego Comic-Con, and I had to miss it last year. But besides that, I think I was there for like 20 years in a row straight, so that's a huge event every year. Always a lot of fun there every single year. So Lou Thesz is a little special to me just because of that. Bruiser Brody, what can you say as a little kid looking at wrestling magazines and his whole story and his history, everything else? Of course, me being an Iowa State guy, Bruiser Brody at one time being an Iowa State guy, you got to have that in common as well. Just absolute game changer to get Bruiser Brody all these years later. Of course, that Jax Class Superstar was a good one. This one is a great one. Magnum TA, maybe the outlier here a little bit. It feels like he had a Mattel Elite just fairly recently. Obviously not super recent, but definitely an interesting one with Magnum TA. Of course, one of the big stars of the 80s and what would have been stars. You know, he would have had a huge career if the accident didn't happen, all that kind of stuff. What can you say about Kerry Von Erich, another guy on tragic accident, unfortunately? Not so much an accident, I guess, but, well, I guess it depends what you're saying. If you're talking about the leg or you're talking about his death, I don't know. But big part of my fandom as a little kid, especially the Texas Tornado years, so very happy to see that. And Stan the Lariat Hansen, another all-timer. I've talked about it on the channel before. My time as a kid in the early 90s and mid-90s, late 90s, trading VHS tapes back and forth with Japan. I was all in high school on that kind of stuff. And Stan Hansen was a huge part of me. Of course, I remember him for the first time ever, seeing him against Lex Luger in WCW, but going back and seeing some of those all-Japan classics, some of those Japan stuff, man, oh man, I don't know how you say Stan Hansen's underrated, but man, he is beyond underrated. So a powerful lineup here, beyond Hall of Fame talent here, just an absolute game changer. And I'm going to try to rank these, and I got to be honest, they're all very close. You could really move anything to the front, and I wouldn't argue with you. I really wouldn't. Some are better than others, but not by a whole lot. Not by a whole lot. So we're going to start it off. Let's start it off at number 6. And I guess I'm going Magnum TA. Nothing against Magnum TA, but he just doesn't feel as different as the other ones, or maybe as special as the other ones. I don't know. I guess you could make the point with Kerry Von Erich. They both had Mattels, but I guess Kerry Von Erich meant more to me in my childhood than Magnum did because of the accident and stuff. But I'm going to put Magnum at the end. Nothing against Magnum. A beautiful figure. I'm going to say that about every single one of these here, but he's going at number 6. Number 5 for me, I'm going to go Vern Gagne. Nothing against Vern either. Just maybe doesn't resonate with me as much as the other ones. I do like the towel. I like the belt. I like everything about it, but I'm just putting him at number 5. Oh boy, this is getting really, really tough here. Really, really tough here. You know what? I'm going to go Brody at number 4. Now, I like the accessories we got with Brody, but Brody feels just a hair tall. He feels a hair out of scale with the rest of these guys, and I am not a big fan of all the blade scars. I love the blade scars, but I would have preferred them to be sculpted in like Jax used to do. I think this just looks like somebody put some lipstick on his head there, so it's just a little off there, holding it back, but still a good figure, and this is one of the guys that really struggles with the extra small hands. His hands just seem very, very tiny for what this figure is. So we'd love to see a Bruiser Brody improved in the future. Maybe they rerun this one back with a different vest color, different boot color, couple different accessories, and maybe a different head sculpt. I would not be opposed to that. Have that as a Toy Fair exclusive or something like that. Do something like that along the way. I think that would be really cool. Get the most out of your molds at the end of the day. So there it is, 654. We're going to go to number 3 here. And I'm going to go Lou Thesz at number 3 just because Lou Thesz, when I was a kid, of course, watching WCW, NWA, Lou Thesz was name dropped all the time. And I only really saw Lou Thesz match in like real time, and I don't even know if it was real time, it was tape delay or whatever, but him against Masahiro Chono, his retirement match, I want to say he was like in his 80s, like 82 or something like that. You know, people giving Ric Flair a hard time for wrestling. Well, Lou Thesz laced up the boots, went over to Japan and got in the ring with Masa Chono back in the day. But Lou Thesz, big time for me just because I've been around his memorabilia. I've been around his wife, Charlie, many a times. I've been at the Waterloo Wrestling Hall of Fame seeing, you know, all of his robes and all that stuff. So Lou Thesz has been a big part of my life in wrestling fandom since I was a little kid, and then even more so over the last 20 years with the Hall of Fame out there. So Lou Thesz had to have a spot here. Happy we finally got a Lou Thesz figure. If anybody ever deserved a figure, it is the great Lou Thesz. And it's funny how so many people just know Lou Thesz from the Lou Thesz press that Stone Cold Steve Austin used to do back in the day as well. So it's kind of funny how it goes full circle there. So now we're down to the final two, and man, this is a pick-em right here. It is very, very tough, and there's some things I like for each one, some things I don't like for each one. But you know what? It's basically a tie. But I'm going to go Modern Day Warrior Kerry Von Erich at number 2. Stan the Lariat Hansen at number 1. Giving me the, I guess we'll go with Kerry Von Erich first. Now, you got the iconic claw. You had to have that there. His jacket a little bit tighter than I felt it needed to be. Definitely hits all the bells of Texas Tornado Kerry Von Erich. Looks just like him. Just absolutely a game changer looking figure. Absolutely do love it. But the specialness of Stan Hansen, another guy, been around forever. Oh, Kerry, don't take it. He's taking offense to it. But Stan Hansen never had a figure. He never had an Elite, never had a Jakks Classic, never had anything along the way. It was time to get a Stan Hansen figure, and I think they did a heck of a job here. I will say, hands a little bit small, face maybe just a hair off a little bit, but all the leather chaps going on, the vest, the title belt, the old hands, man, there's a lot to like about this Stan Hansen. It really did blow me away. Of course, you also got the cowbell and the soft goods rope, soft rope, whatever you want to call it. Just a phenomenal Stan Hansen figure, and I think a lot of it has to do with him never getting a figure before. I would say if Kerry Von Erich never had a figure before, if we didn't have those 2 Mattel figures, I'd probably be moving him up to the top, but those 2 Mattel figures still hold up to this day, if you ask me. But I do love Kerry Von Erich. I love the Modern Day Warrior. I love Rush, so of course he's going to be high up on the list here at number 2. But what say you guys out there? This is a heck of a tough list to do for someone like me. Maybe it's a little bit easier for some of you guys to do, but why don't you put your list in the comments down below. Of course, you made it this far. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the old notification bell. We got videos every single day, including all these Powertown videos. We unboxed every single one of them. Check out those reviews. But we also got even more content, including early access to all the videos on Patreon, and Patreon is your best way to support this very YouTube channel and all the content it brings. You can also support the channel over there at ProWrestlingTees.com. Search Kyle Peterson. And don't forget social media. Search Paul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson. So for Powertown Ultras Series 1, I am Kyle. See you guys all real soon.